It's about that time.
Stoned on Sports.
How's it going, everybody? You are tuned in to Stoned on Sports Fantasy Football. My name is Matt. You can find me over on X at Pick His Ass Up, and it is finally here. The moment we have all been waiting for. There is no tomorrow. It's win or go home. It is one and done, or hopefully not. We are talking about the playoffs. And look, understand, if you're in the playoffs, you've made it, right? You have the same chance as everybody else does. 1-4, 1-6. There's a few of you out there, myself included. Maybe you've been watching over the past couple of weeks, wondering if you were going to get the bye. And here on Stoned on Sports Fantasy Football, we refer to that as bye curious. And look, I got one in a league, and you know, Dubo, he's here in the chat. He got himself the number 1 seed in the podcast league. Kip got himself the number 2 slot. But look, there is no tomorrow. And Kyle, I'm really running out of cliches, so I'm going to ask you to pick me up at this point in time.
Yeah.
Folks, you know, look, in full transparency, I may be a little bit extra lubricated today, just coming from the work Christmas party where the booze was flowing and other mood enhancers have been implemented. Kyle, say some words.
Yeah, words. You mentioned the podcast league. Where did you finish in the podcast league? Oh, wait, I have it right here. Let me pull it up. 8th. Missed the playoffs.
You know what? We get to that at the end of the show.
Yeah, well,
if we have time. And see,
I
got Captain Spock there in the chat talking all that shit. I made the playoffs in both of my user leagues. I see you throwing that shade, Spock. Don't think that shit goes unnoticed. I got unlucky this year, right? And understand, look, if the dudes I drafted would have done what I thought they were going to do, shit. I'd have gone 11-2, 12-2, something like that. There would be no buy curiosity. I would be firmly locked in as completely buy. But here we are. I'm going to be watching the playoffs from home. Hats off to Dubo. He done whooped my ass this week. Congratulations, brother. You earned it.
Yeah, it's going to be a good playoff. Going to be good. Not what we're here for. So we got a few guys to talk about, some waivers. Not necessarily waivers. Not all the guys are waivers. They're going to help you week 15. Some might help you throughout the fantasy playoffs. First guy we got today is QB Jameis Winston with the Browns. Last week completed 24, 41, 212, 2 touchdowns, and threw 2 picks, of course. And how Jameis managed to throw almost 500 yards against an elite defense like Denver and then go out against Pittsburgh and score only 17 fantasy points, I'll never know. But Pittsburgh is pretty damn good against quarterbacks, so they are better than most. Since becoming the starter in Week 8, Winston's the QB9 and has averaged 21 fantasy points per game, ranking 5th among quarterbacks. Also, since Week 8, he's 9th in pass yards with 1176, tied for 6th with 8 touchdowns. And, of course, Winston's YOLO style. He's also thrown 2nd most picks with 5. And he's kind of had this pattern lately since he started there in his last 6 games. Week 8, 23 points. Week 9, 13. Week 11, 26. Week 12, 14. Week 13, 36. Week 14, just 17. So if that pattern continues, Week 15 should be another spike week for him. Now, this week's matchup versus Kansas City's, it's a pretty big high degree of difficulty, but Kansas City still has allowed the 11th most points to quarterbacks per game this year. And since Week 9, Kansas City's allowed the 6th most passing yards and is tied for the 6th most touchdowns allowed to quarterbacks. So I'm saying maybe not Week 15, but grab them now for a week, for an eye on Week 16, because they face the Bengals that week. That's a game with almost unlimited fantasy potential. Since Week 9, Cincinnati's allowed the 6th most QBs to quarterbacks, the 10th most passing yards, and the 3rd most touchdown passes. And, Jameis Winston, hasn't been a shootout game he didn't like, right? I'd stream him with confidence, really, in the fantasy playoffs. I think over the next 2 weeks, he's very likely a top 12 quarterback each time. So if you're willing to live dangerously, it could be the QB for you.
Yeah, and look, he's that YOLO swing it kind of dude. He's just as likely to go out there and throw for 303 as he is for 202 interceptions, right? And that's the danger you live with a dude like Jameis Winston. But at the same time, you know, if you're in the playoffs and you're not feeling comfortable, maybe you got somebody like Brock Purdy or Jared Goff, who has been good this year, right?
Sure.
Jared Goff has been perfectly fine. He gives you a nice floor, but if you feel like, hey, I'm in the playoffs and maybe I'm the 6th seed and I need a little bit of upside, whereas, you know, look, you got to win. And you have to do whatever it takes to win. And sometimes doing whatever it takes to win means you pick up Jameis Winston's ass and you start him that same week in the first round of the playoffs.
Winning championships, you know, takes balls, right? Or, you know, at least I'm told.
It does. Dude, what have we said all year though? You're never going to win doing the same thing everybody else is doing.
This is true. Yep. Got to take some risks for sure. Let's see. So in Jets land there, Breece Hall could return this week. Not a guarantee, right? You may want to get Braelon Allen on your roster just in case. I think he's the best player to pick up if you want a high upside play given the Jets schedule. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I understand we've been telling you for weeks now, if you've got Breece Hall, you need to have Braelon Allen. But on the off chance you got Breece and didn't pick him up because you weren't paying attention, or maybe, you know, you've got some absent-minded managers in your league and Braelon Allen is out there on the wire, just like the Twitter handle says, go ahead and pick his ass up. Last week, he turned in an 11-carry, 43-yard rushing performance, and he chipped in another 4 for 38 through the air. He was an RB2 this week. He garnered 5 targets. That was second to Isaiah Davis's 6 among running backs, but still, considering what we were expecting from him, I'll take that split. That's pretty much even. Saw an even split in snaps with Davis as well, 37 to 36. Percentage-wise, Allen had a 54% snap share, Davis 53, but he out-touched Davis 15 to 13. So that's good, right? Got the start because Breece was inactive with an MCL / we'll call it hypertension issue and his surgically repaired left knee. We don't know when he's going to be back. He could be back this week. The Jets have said they're not going to shut him down, but at the same time, what incentive do you really have to play him? And looking at Breece Allen, earlier in the season, we thought he was starting to carve out a little bit of a role for himself. In weeks 2 through 4, he had at least a 32% snap share and played at least 20 snaps each week. And every week he had at least 9 touches. And that's not what we were expecting when we took Breece Hall in the top half of the first round. You know, we were expecting damn close to bell cow usage. But then Braelon Allen and everybody else, their production took a shit just like the team did. And it almost makes me wonder, did that 10-9 loss to Denver at home really break this team, right? From then on, they lost 9 out of 10, inexplicably. The matchups upcoming, I don't think you could ask for a better set of opponents to go up against. He's got the Jags, which allow the most points to running backs, the Rams, who allow the 18th most, and the Bills allow the 24th most since week 8 forward. We also have to imagine he's going to be handling the goal line work. Although there were no goal line touches available last week, that just says to me that's kind of Braelon Allen's role. The closest they had was from the 9-yard line. And we want to remember, too, Breece Hall played through this injury back in week 13. He missed last week, and maybe it was just an opportunity for him to recharge a little bit. And if Breece Hall is back, guess what? Braelon Allen doesn't fucking matter. But in the event that Breece Hall is out again and you're looking for somebody to plug in as a low-end RB2 or a flex option, you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody better available than Braelon Allen.
I agree, for sure. A little side note here. So we're talking about the why we love auction drafts or snake drafts, and Captain says that he doesn't like auction drafts. He likes not having money involved, just pure positioning. Just a side chat about that really fast. I've come to love auction drafts. I can get who I want if I want to spend the money. And you know, with there's more skill involved in auction drafts, I believe.
I think it's the other side of that, because with an auction draft, really your best chance of success is to take like a stars and scrubs approach, and you've got to hit on those cheap guys, right? With a regular snake draft, there's an added layer of strategy that goes into it, and you and I have experienced this drafting right next to each other before. It's all right, these are the dudes I'm targeting, and if you're doing your draft prep correctly, you're never going to get sniped, right? Because, okay, I know at my pick coming up, these 4 or 5 dudes should be available. I'm going to be good with taking every one of them. You know, so if you take whoever the hell you take the pick right before me, I need to know what I'm going to do in that eventuality, right? Now, if you take somebody else and I get the dude I really wanted, awesome.
Yeah.
But you've got to have a backup plan, and it's layers of strategy. And Spock brings up a good point. It takes a lot of skill to hit on the late round guys, but at the same time, you can draw a parallel between hitting on the late round guys and hitting on your cheap guys in an auction draft.
I agree. Okay. I can see that. Definitely. Yeah.
You know, it's really just the manner in which you acquire them and the availability of the player pool. But I think they both have their upsides, and they both take a different kind of mindset and preparation going into them to be successful.
All right. Matt's thoughts on drafts.
Yes. And we talked about one running back, but we ain't just going to give you one. As a matter of fact, we got another one. This cat is no stranger to the show. He's down there chilling in Jacksonville and really looks to have assumed the primary running role on that team. Kyle, talk to us about Tank Bigsby.
Yeah, no stranger, Tank Bigsby. Last week, took kind of back over the backfield there. He's been back a couple games since getting hurt. Rushed the ball 18 times, 55 yards, got in the end zone, and also caught a ball for 7 yards on a couple targets. Team high in attempts, rushing yards, and he scored that touchdown. Was his 5th rushing touchdown of the season. Places an RB20 in PPR leagues. Well, he's even more. He's more valuable in standard leagues, but he's RB36 on the season, so not horrible. He's right there at the end of running back 3 or a flex, however you want to say it. He's got Etienne there in the backfield with him. They had similar snap counts last week. Etienne was limited to just 4 carries, but Etienne, of course, did lead the backfield in routes run and targets and receiving because that's his bag, Bigsby's consistently this year, when healthy, is operated as one of the most explosive and efficient backs in the entire league. Among 32 running backs with 120 or more rush attempts, he's the 13th in PFF rush grade, 6th in yards per attempt at 5 flat. I remember earlier in the season where he was at like 8 or 9 or something. It was ridiculous. Number 1 in yards after contact per attempt, over 4 yards. That's amazing. And he's 11th in missed tackles force and 4th in PFF's breakaway rate. Guy is explosive. Now, both of those guys are good backs. They just offer different skill sets, but I think Bigsby is the preferred back to use in your lineups during the playoffs here. The Jaguars face the Jets, the Raiders, and the Titans over the next 3 weeks. Those are all, below average teams with average run defenses. And for Bigsby to hold his value, he needs to be, a neutral game script or a positive game script. So I think that's going to happen in these games. I think he should at least have double-digit carries for sure. But, things could happen. It's not really guaranteed when you got Mac Jones running things there in Jacksonville. But good add. Good depth to have. He's somebody I would look at starting this week. And remember, of course, his ceiling is pretty limited there with, not much action as a pass catcher. But I think the rushing workload more than makes up for it and makes him a flex option throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, and really, I think the big concern with him is just the possibility of getting games scripted out because, he's not going to be out there on passing downs or in negative game scripts. But as long as it's a neutral or positive game script, he's good to go. I mean, we talked about it earlier this season, but just the difference that we've seen in him between last year and this year, like I thought he was a scrub. And I know you had him on your taxi squad last year and ended up trading him this year. And he's looked so much better.
Yeah.
It's almost hard to believe it's the same player.
Yep. He's been damn good. Let's see. What do we got next? One more running back, guy we've never really talked about. Not much. You may remember during the last 4 weeks of the season last year in 2023, running back for the Raiders, Zamir White, took over the backfield there and went off and probably helped win some league winners or helped some league championships. It appears Las Vegas has a new leader in the backfield there with Sincere McCormick. Can he do something similar this year over the rest of the season?
I don't know. It's certainly possible. The matchups are pretty solid, and funnily enough, he is not the first player in the NFL named Sincere. There is Sincere Haynesworth, who was a practice squad player for the Patriots earlier this season.
All right. Matt is always there with the useless tidbits of knowledge.
Well, we got to fill time somehow, right?
That's right.
Look, at the end of the day, looking at this Raiders team this year, it's kind of a ballsy move to invest in a Raiders running back, but at the same time, volume is king, right? Alexander Madison and Zamir White continue to miss time. Zamir White actually just hit IR today, but really how big of a loss is that? And to his credit, McCormick is taking advantage of the opportunity he has been given over the past 2 weeks. He has 27 rush attempts for 142 yards, and he's also got 5 targets, 4 grabs for 12 yards. The receiving yardage total isn't huge, but if you're going to show me a guy who's going to get 16, 17 touches a week, I'm going to take it. And it's also pretty impressive given the opponents that they've faced, specifically the Chiefs and the Raiders being a bottom 10 run blocking line. He even got some goal line work against Tampa last week. And he's seen his snap share increase each week from 10% in week 12 to 61% last week. But he's still going to split time with Amir Abdullah there in the backfield. But still, McCormick has more targets than Abdullah over the past couple games. It's slim margin, 5-4. And I looked at all 32 of his carries this season, and I kind of like what I see. There's a little bit there. He doesn't go down on first contact. He's got halfway decent vision. He hits the hole very hard, and he gets more than what's blocked for him, which is important given the struggles that the Raiders have had as a run blocking unit. He actually led the Raiders with a plus 43 rushing yards over expected since earning his first carry in week 12 of this season. All other Raider running backs have combined for a negative 95 rush yards over expected this season. He's posted positive rushing yards over expected in each of his 3 games with a rush attempt, while no other Raiders running back has achieved this in more than 2 games this season. Matchups coming up, like I mentioned earlier, they're pretty damn solid. He gets the Falcons, which are 16th. Against running back, the Saints, who are 20th, and the Jaguars, who are the absolute worst. Still, at the same time, we need to make sure we keep our expectations in line with reality. Chances are he's going to be a low end RB2, high end RB3 flex option kind of player for you.
Yeah. You never know. I just like his efficiency. 5.5 attempt is damn nice.
Hell yeah, it is. And he found some success against the Chiefs, who have been damn tough against the run.
Yeah.
We're gonna move on to wide receiver, and this dude gives an old man like me hope that I can still achieve things in life.
You can.
We got old ass Adam Thielen down in Carolina, still making moves and getting results. Kyle, why don't you tell us why he deserves a spot on our team?
I mean, he. Can I use the word alpha for him? He looks like the rest of the season alpha there in the Panthers passing attack, whether Jalen Coker comes back or not. Last week, he caught 9 of 11, 102 yards, scored 19.2 PPR points. Wide receiver 17 finished pretty good. He's got a 22 target share in the last 3 games, 20 catches, 258, and a touchdown, and scored 19 plus fantasy points in 2 out of the last 3 is pretty good. He's averaging 21.6 the last 2 weeks, 7th best among wide receivers. Since he came back 3 weeks ago, his wide receiver ranks are pretty good. He's tied for 8th in most targets, tied for 7th in yards with Justin Jefferson, top 5 in contested catch rate, and 12th in yards per route run. That's really damn good. And, maintaining that pace will probably be, difficult, even in an offense that is improved there in Carolina, but somewhat favorable matchups rest of the way. Cowboys, Cardinals, and Buccaneers on the schedule the next 3 weeks. Best matchup is this one this weekend against Dallas. They just surrendered 177-2 to Jamar Chase last night. Now, I'm not saying Adam Thielen's Jamar Chase, but the vulnerabilities are there for Dallas, right? Since week 9, Dallas allows the 5th most PPR points per game to wide receivers. They've allowed the 5th most receiving yards, the 4th most receiving touchdowns, and 300-yard plus games to wide receivers, again, since week 9. And one thing you need for fantasy, I put it in the chat here a moment ago to Captain, volume. And volume's really the most important thing, role and volume, and Thielen is providing that. And I think Thielen and Bryce Young are kind of on the same page enough to say that, Thielen's a solid wide receiver 3 rest of the season here through the playoffs. I like him.
I think so too. And you want to remember last season, like the dude was a wide receiver 1 through the first 8 weeks.
Yep.
He was producing and he was doing well. And usually we worry about older players and them losing a step and losing their speed, but like, that's not how he's getting things done this season. He's getting it done with, crisp routes and he's getting good separation. It's not a straight line speed kind of thing. And with, I saw a tweet by Brett Coleman that, essentially said like, look, Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson, them getting benched probably saved their careers. And since coming back, both of them look significantly better. And I think the biggest improvement we've seen is in Bryce Young.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he's going to end up as a franchise quarterback. I'm saying he at least looks halfway competent. And with somebody like Adam Thielen out there on the field that he can rely on, who has that veteran presence and experience and just knows how to get open.
Yeah.
He's going to get fed the rock.
He sure was. Yeah. I mean, when we saw Bryce Young early season, he looked no better than last year. In fact, some regression in some parts of his game there. And then, got benched and then came back and looks a lot damn better. And I think a lot of credit has to go to Dave Canales. He's appearing at least to be a damn good coach.
Well, I mean, you look what he did with Geno Smith up in Seattle, and then he goes to Tampa and help resurrects Baker Mayfield's career. You hear the term QB whisperer thrown around quite a bit, but I mean, this dude is showing now with a track record of success of taking quarterbacks who have struggled. I mean, Geno Smith was nothing. He was a meme. I mean, he had a teammate punch him in the face when he was a quarterback of the Jets. And, up there in Seattle, Dave Canales worked with him and obviously things happened, and now we see the fruits and the results of the happening.
Love the trailer park boys.
Yeah, and
reference.
Spock brings up a good point. Like, Thielen's got fresh legs. And if you got somebody with fresh legs this time of year, that gives you an extra leg up. I mean, same thing with Isaiah Pacheco. Motherfuckers coming in fresh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Running against defenses that had their ass kicked for 14 weeks.
This is true. All right, one more guy for you. Got to talk about a tight end. Hunter Henry is available in over half of leagues. Sees plenty of volume. Sees plenty of red zone work as well. However, none of the remaining matchups are what I would call amazing. Is he still start worthy?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Look, at the end of the day, dude's having his best season or looking to in terms of production. He's currently the tight end 11 at the position. He's 5th in receptions. He's 6th in targets and yards. He's 4th in team target share, 4th in air yards, 7th in red zone targets, 5th in receptions of 10 plus yards. Really, the big issue is he's just found the end zone once. But his stat line, across the year, 83 targets, 58 grabs, 610 yards with 4 games to go. We could be looking at an 800-yard season. We just need his ass to find the end zone. He's played at least 50 snaps in 11 of their 13 games, and he's had an 80% or more snap share in 9 of 13, and he leads the team in targets. He's got at least 5 targets in 7 of his last 8 and at least 5 receptions in 6 of the last 7. That's damn good usage. Now, the offense, it's not a high volume pass offense. Drake May's gone over 30 attempts in just 5 of his 8 starts, and he's gone for more than 275 yards just twice this year. But still, Hunter Henry is the most consistent and trusted target on the team. The schedule, brother, you undersold that shit. It is brutal. He's got the Cardinals, who are 3rd against the position, the Bills, who are 5th, and the Chargers, who are 4th, upcoming. Like 3 of the top 5 defenses against tight ends. And really, this is a situation where, not unlike running backs that we've talked about throughout the year, we're really going to look to lean on that volume and hope he finds the end zone. He's a dependable dude, though. He's got just 2 drops, and he's hauled in all but 2 of his 60 catchable targets. Doesn't really get moved around a whole lot. He's an inline slot kind of guy. He gets used wide about 5% of the time. But again, like, he is a volatile option. He has the 4th largest difference in target rate when facing man, which is higher, compared to zone, which is lower. And Arizona has the 6th highest zone usage rate in the league this year. Still, like, look, if we're at this point in the year and you find yourself scouring the waiver wire for tight end, that means you've been doing that shit all year long. Juwan Johnson, who we thought was going to help us out, probably not going to happen with Derek Carr getting hurt. Maybe Isaiah Likely's available on the wire. Piss on that. Maybe you're lucky and Ertz is there, but we're talking about dudes who are the back end of the tight end scale. And we've said and we've known all year, unless you've got a George Kittle, a Trey McBride, somebody like that, that dickhead rookie in Vegas, Brock Bowers, like, unless you've got one of those 3 dudes, you've got nothing. The difference between the 5th tight end and like the 15th tight end is maybe a quarter point a week. You're rolling the dice.
Yeah. That's how it goes every year for tight ends. Every year.
It is. But I do want to mention, though, Hunter Henry is somebody who was talked about in fantasy circles for quite a while about potential, because he was always missing time. He was he was hurt. He'd miss 4 or 5 games a year, but damn, if he could just stay healthy. He started every single game this season so far for the first time in his career. And if he had 6 touchdowns instead of 1, I think this would be a much different conversation. He'd be a borderline top 5 option at the position, and he wouldn't be sitting out on waivers in more than half of leagues.
Is he there next year? I can't remember. Contract.
That I just don't know, my friend.
Yeah,
I just have.
I mean, you would really benefit from another good wide receiver there, a good pass catcher there, because they don't really have somebody like a T. Higgins, goes there next year. No, he's under contract through 26. So
yeah. So if he had 6 tight ends, that'd be some big ass pants. If he had 6 touchdowns instead of the 1, he'd be the tight end 5.
Yeah,
in PPR, like it's
that close.
It
always
is.
Captain's hoping that Henry's available where he has the dismissal. Yes, looks like Disley's going to miss some time, probably the rest of the year.
Yeah,
good.
That's
not
because I just picked him up last week. I've been playing musical chairs at tight end. I gave up on Mark Andrews, after he did jack shit through the first 6 weeks of the season, and he's had, we'll call it a couple decent games, but he's somebody who, he was, I don't know, touchdown dependent. He's the tight end 7 right now. He has 9 more points than Hunter Henry.
Yeah. That's Jesus. Another player's home was broken into.
Oh yeah, Burrow during the game yesterday.
Yeah, wasn't it?
Well,
Kelsey or Mahomes or something within the last month, I think.
But still, if you're going to burgle a crib, like at least do it when the person that lives there isn't going to be home.
I mean, yeah, it makes a little sense.
And if you're going to rob a place, like rob somebody rich. Don't come rob me. I ain't got shit.
It must be some smart people because, like, you got to believe these guys have very expensive security systems and stuff. But whatever. All right. Anyway, podcast league.
Hold on, Dubo has something to say here. Since we won't bring it up, he will. How about 2 claps and a woo for his boy slinging Sammy Darnold, America's quarterback? Like
Sammy D.
He had a hell of a game. He really did. Since you didn't bring it up, I guess I will. How about them Detroit Lions with the number 1 scoring offense and the number 1 scoring defense? Despite
and number 1 in the NFC North and number 1 in the NFC and stuff.
And 13 defensive players on IR.
I think Seattle.
Week 18 is going to be fun.
Seattle, I'm pretty sure, plays Green Bay and Minnesota over the next few weeks, and I guess I'm going to be a Seahawks fan. I will. I was mad. I think that they kept us out of the playoffs at the end of 22.
Yeah,
and so I will forgive the Seahawks team if they take down the Packers and the Vikings. In fact, yeah.
I won't, because that Seahawks team has been like a bugaboo the past few years, and we got one back this year.
We're past that. We're past that. Like I said, that was all.
I hold a grudge like a motherfucker.
That was Pete Carroll teams, and it's Mike McDonald now. So, yeah.
No, week 18 is going to be fun. Look, if things go the way we think they're going to go, then the Vikings had a hell of a season, right? And I hope you enjoy your road wild card game at Tampa or whoever. Nobody thought you were going to make playoffs with Sam Darnold, and he's going to go get paid somewhere.
He'll probably go
after
make
the
some
season
money
he's
somewhere.
had. Hats off to him. He's had a hell of a year. He put up, I don't know, like 45 points or something like that. Eventually, it reached a point in Dubo and I's contest where I just stopped looking because there was like no point in continuing to punish myself. Hats off to you, brother. You kicked my ass up around my neck, but that's what you're supposed to do because you're a playoff team. And unfortunately, things conspired in a way and ended up in such a situation where, I am not included in the playoffs in the podcast league.
No. It's dumb. 2 Monday night games on week 15. That's. I mean, I don't really like it at the beginning of the season much either. But
why are you going to split your audience like that?
Yeah,
and put one of them on ESPN Plus. Like that just guarantees, hey, that's not a game I'm going to watch through your channel. Now I might stream it.
They'll put it. It's on ABC and ESPN Plus, and then the Vegas and Atlanta games just on ESPN like normal. But so people can still watch it. But
we'll see. We got our two first round bye holders in here. LB, who won the baseball league, and now he's trying to do the sweep. I admire the ambition, brother, but that shit ain't gonna happen. See, I ain't in the playoffs, so I'm just gonna shit talk all of you.
Speaking of that, the standings again. There we got the final six there. Dubo, Loud Boy, AJ came back.
He did. And he's defending champion.
Yeah, he was 8th or 9th like a lot of the year. I remember seeing him at the bottom, and then he found his way back. And me and Ramrod, Ramey. And I played Drew, who I just played this past week and beat him. So, hopefully I will knock him out. So we got our little brackety. We'll see. I don't know. Right now I'm projected to lose, but I got some waivers.
All right. We got Dylan in the chat. Appreciate you joining us, dude. Playoff waiver wire. He's looking for a defense and a kicker. We'll start with the defense first. He's got Washington at New Orleans, the Jets at Jacksonville, or the Falcons at Vegas. Which one of those speaks to you and says, start me and lead me on my path to victory?
Probably Washington or the Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas is going to be trotting Desmond Ridder out there most likely. It did end up Farva didn't tear anything. He's just got a bone bruise, whatever the hell that is.
Farva.
New Orleans, you've got Carr with a broken left hand.
I think Ben DiNucci is going to start there or something. I saw they signed into the practice squad. I don't know who's going to.
Yeah, they signed some other scrub to the active roster. I'd never even heard of, like Mark Baker or some shit. Great. I'm going to agree with you and go with Washington, even though it's on the road at New Orleans. That team has just been destroyed by injuries this year. As long as Washington can go there. And really, they just need to focus on the run.
Yep.
And then for kickers, he's got Bass at Detroit, Dicker against Tampa, or Reichert against Chicago.
Bass indoor sounds good to me.
It does. And
should be some points scored. I mean, yeah, you should be able to do all right there. Say he gets you 9 or 10.
Yeah, I would say so. That game has a 54.5 total.
Yeah. Which,
if you guess that was the highest on the board by a lot, you would be correct. Like 5 points. Detroit, 2.5 point favorite. That's our game of the week there in the D. Dubo going out there with that Reichert shit. Nah, dude. I'm going to go with Bass. I understand Detroit is tied with, who is it, Denver and Pittsburgh for the number one scoring defenses. At the same time, like there's going to be some points put up in that game. And when you have a defense like Detroit, who, look, make no mistake, they are not a dominant defense whatsoever. They are very good at bend, don't break.
Yeah, they're heavy, man. They're going to give up some yards. It's going to happen, but they're very opportunistic.
They are. If you're going to beat that secondary, you're going to beat them deep. At the same time, I do think the Bills are going to be able to move the ball a little bit, and I think there's going to be plenty of opportunity for Bass.
Yeah, I agree.
Good luck, Dylan.
Heck yeah. All right. We're out of here.
We are.
Give us a like and subscribe if you like what you see. We'd really appreciate it. We'll be back Saturday. We'll be back Thursday.
Whatever.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt. Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, same time. Starts and sits, taking all your questions live. Have a good night, everyone.